Howard serves on the National Board of Directors of MAZON, a Jewish response to hunger. Inspired by Jewish values and ideals, MAZON is a national organization fighting to end hunger among people of all faiths and backgrounds in the United States and in Israel. A committed member of the Twin Cities Jewish Community, Howard serves on the Board of Directors of JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas, and served as an outside legal advisor to Jewish Family and Children's Services of Minneapolis, where he previously sat on the board of directors and now happily volunteers weekly at the reception desk. He served on the board of directors of Sabes Jewish Community Center. He was honored with the 2016 Sidney Barrows Lifetime Commitment Award by the Twin Cities Cardozo Society, an award given annually to a senior attorney or judge in the Twin Cities who exemplifies excellence in his or her practice, community service in the Jewish and general community, and lifelong learning. Howard retired in 2017 as a partner at the Minneapolis law firm of MAZON LLP and remains associated with the firm as counsel. He and his family have been members of ADAS since 1988. And without further ado, it's a pleasure to get to hear from Howard.
Shabbat Shalom. Have you watched Chopped, that cooking competition TV show? Yes. Well, on the cue of the host, 4 restaurant chefs each dramatically open a picnic basket and reveal a ridiculous collection of 4 mismatched food items. If you haven't seen the show, here's an actual example of one of the more preposterous combinations: celery root, rainbow chard, flat iron steak, and chocolate frosting. Maybe next week the SMP kids could tell you what they would make out of all that. The contestants then have 30 minutes to scurry around the studio kitchen to grab other ingredients and seasonings, and then use all of the available appliances, pots, pans, utensils, and bowls to prepare an elegant meal out of that mishmash. Their objective is to impress a panel of chefs serving as judges to win a cash prize. Today's Parsha reads a bit like a primitive version of Chopped. The ancient Israelites did not have to make something out of oddball items to impress a panel of judges, but they did need to figure out what to do with bulls, sheep, goats, pigeons, yes, turtle doves, to prepare a meal that would give off a pleasing odor to God. So they slaughtered and they sliced and they pinched and they quartered and they flayed. And then they seasoned with salt and grits, oils and frankincense, hoping that their concoction would be acceptable to God. In addition to pleasing God, we learn that their sacrifices served another vital purpose. They also fed the Kohanim and the Levites, who did not have the resources to sustain themselves. This Parsha is challenging. How can we relate to our ancestors' primitive, messy animal sacrifices? How do we connect to their practices that are completely removed from our reality? My friend Rabbi Joel Pitkowski is the past chair of the MAZON board. He suggests that we need not dwell on the gory details of the animal sacrifices, which are so foreign to our contemporary lives. Rather, he urges us to understand that the Israelites' ritual sacrifices were actually sacrifices of gratitude. The offerings fulfilled their deep need to join together as a community, not only to thank God for their food, but also to be grateful that they had enough to share with those Israelites who could not feed themselves. Our ancestors engaged in these sacrifices of gratitude as a way to connect with the needy in their midst, and in doing so, to get closer to God. This understanding that the Israelites sacrificed to help the needy so as to connect to God offers us the context to really admire those in our communities who recently gave of themselves to aid their neighbors in peril. Minneapolis officials have reported the details of millions of dollars of losses to the local economy, disrupted livelihoods, and shattered families as among the severe consequences that Operation Metro Surge visited on the everyday lives of so many. Last Sunday, Tom Friedman in the New York Times chronicled the many ways that people have responded to the plights of their neighbors. Friedman called these efforts one of the most courageous battles ever fought by American men and women not in uniform. He wrote about the moms ready to donate their breast milk to strangers, and the dads ready to drive someone else's kids to school because the parents, terrified of ICE agents, were too afraid to go outside. Neighbors tapped cash machines to help out local restaurants and businesses that decided to close, knowing they would suffer financially in order to protect their cooks, dishwashers, desk clerks, and other employees from being dragged away by masked ICE agents. Friedman's essay was beautiful, but there was another remarkable community response that he did not touch on. The city has estimated that the federal actions resulted in an additional 76,000 people experiencing food insecurity. That means that those individuals lost consistent access to healthy and affordable food. Undaunted, their neighbors stepped forward. They met the urgent need to help the strangers in their midst who had to be fed. A number of churches and many of our Twin Cities synagogues, including here at Adat, through the volunteers on the Chesed Committee, organized collections for food shelves and other humanitarian relief for struggling families throughout the Twin Cities. This year, Jewish Family and Children's Service has already distributed about the same number of emergency food boxes to clients and community members that the agency gave out all of last year. Donations have poured into JFCS to meet the burgeoning need for these emergency food boxes. JFCS has even received calls from people around the country who just want to give. These and so many other selfless efforts to collect and donate food were critical. But perhaps more so has been remarkable strategies to overcome barriers to getting that food to the people who need it. During Operation Metro Surge in December, January, and February, PRISM, our leading anti-poverty organization in the northwest suburbs, experienced a rare downward trend in the number of people coming to the food shelf. Why? Because many food shelf clients were afraid of ICE. They dared not venture outside. That sparked a large volunteer effort to deliver food to struggling families who did not feel safe leaving their homes. PRISM began a separate operation of packing food to go out with mutual aid groups. PRISM did not know the names of the participants. Its sole focus was on delivery. PRISM also saw an increase in proxy pickups, where parents, friends, neighbors, and generous mutual aid organizations picked up food on behalf of others. The volunteers were very vigilant about maintaining the confidentiality of families, with some drivers even using dissolvable paper in case they got stopped by ICE. Michelle Ness, the tireless leader of PRISM, said that the level of care and commitment by the volunteers who simply wanted to help sustain the food needs of others has been inspiring. Our JFCS partnered with PRISM in this amazing effort by increasing the availability of its own delivery drivers, and JFCS organized deliveries to those of its own clients who were fearful of going outside. Similarly, our friends at ICA have been working through congregations, schools, and volunteers who helped identify families who are in hiding. ICA's leader, Dan Nahr, who has been a wonderful partner with our Jewish community work on food insecurity issues. Dan said that ICA has already provided over 800 emergency food kits over and above the emergency bags that ICA normally makes available and did so before federal agents arrived. Volunteers have picked up food kits from ICA and either delivered them directly to people in need or brought them back to their respective congregations or schools for discreet distribution. ICA's entire process was built around client safety and anonymity. For over 40 years, MAZON has delivered the message to lawmakers and regulators that nobody deserves to be hungry. It's at the heart of advocating for public policies that are designed to end food insecurity in America. Our faith has always taught us that nobody deserves to be hungry. To make that point again, MAZON is in the process of collecting 47,000 postcards with messages demanding protection for basic needs programs that help people put food on the table. MAZON will be delivering those messages to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Each postcard represents 1,000 of the 47 million Americans who are food insecure. Indeed, no one deserves to be hungry, and certainly not people in our community who have been too afraid to leave their homes to get the food that they need. Earlier this year, almost 50 members of the Minnesota Rabbinical Association and the Minnesota Cantors Association, including our clergy, published an open letter expressing their collective concern and grief over how actions of federal agents have devastated the community. As they said, no matter how you understand the need for immigration reform and border security, there was no justification for the actions that so terrified innocent citizens that they were afraid to leave their homes. Our clergy urged us to take advantage of the many ways we can stand up and get involved to protect our communities. Answering that call is how we can understand today's challenging reading and learn its critical message. Vayikra is where we find almost half of the 613 mitzvot in the Torah. Among them is the commandment that we provide food for the poor and the stranger. We do so without standing in judgment about why they are hungry, and we do so without deeming them unworthy if they are among us without legal permission. The Torah teaches us how profoundly gratifying it was for our ancestors to share the food they had with their fellow men and women who could not feed themselves. Likewise, we can learn how rewarding it is to be among the countless individuals and organizations who have selflessly donated food and volunteered to deliver it to those in need, many of whom the drivers don't even know. The ancient Israelites fed the hungry to get closer to them, sacrificing out of gratitude for what they had as a way to get closer to God. Today, thankfully, we don't need to sacrifice animals to have the same experience of connecting to struggling people. Rather, we can volunteer and we can give to organizations like the Food Shelves and JFCS that feed those who need sustenance, and those organizations that like MAZON, that advocate for ending hunger. Our gratitude for being able to share what we have with others can bring us renewed meaning and purpose in our lives and get us closer to God. Shabbat Shalom.